Hello, everyone. I'm trying to make sure. Yep. Okay. That was interesting. Getting some feedback. Um, Hi. Um, Second broadcast. I'm not any better at introducing myself. I am House Adducci, and I'm a screenwriter. And I just figured out why that was doing that. There we go. Sorry, I'm preoccupied with technology because I don't know technology very well. That's not true. I'm really good with technology. It's just a lot of things to manage. It was really funny to realize that a lot of the streaming stuff is basically just broadcast television, by the way. My degree was in television. It wasn't really in television. It was in video production. But they took that to mean television back in the day before, digital cameras took over film. So, anyway, a lot of my education had to do with like switchboards and live production and studio production and all that kind of stuff. And that's basically what this is. It takes a lot of coordination to do all these things. So, yeah. Anyway, we are on tonight with Rocky, as you can see. I originally said something about maybe doing Jurassic Park, but once again, this stuff just comes up and kind of comes to me, and I'm like, I think, I don't know. I think this is the one. So Rocky is what I'm covering this week. And I will tell you right now that if you do any kind of search for Rocky and script, you're going to get a ton of responses, because everyone and their mother and their brother and their third cousin has broken this script down. And that's a good thing. And it totally makes sense. It's an Oscar-winning script. Sylvester Stallone, of all people, wrote it. And it's got an incredible story behind it. It is an incredible story. So, yeah, I understand. So I'm not going to focus as much on structure because there's plenty of it out there. I will say that it kind of lends itself to the first thing I want to talk about, though. I'm going to try to be a little bit more organized and a little shorter tonight as far as, how long it takes me to go through this. So, the just starting to read the script is, it's such a slow burn, like a really low key script. So I think a lot of scripts these days are very high concept, which just means bigger set pieces, bigger action. Sometimes it can mean action. It can mean things that are a little bit more out of this world, as in extraordinary as opposed to ordinary. I'm sure there's an official definition that I'm totally missing, but you get the drift. So when you read something like Rocky, it's really interesting because it is shockingly ordinary, but it is equally shockingly hard to capture ordinary and capture it in a way that's not just a writer sitting down and just like vomiting thoughts. I think ordinary often turns into like novels because, again, it's just people wanting to meander on the page. And if there's one medium you cannot meander in, it's screenwriting. So Rocky is one of those movies. It shocked me the first time I saw it because it is so laid back. You think you're going to be watching this fight movie. No, there's no fighting. There's no fighting until the very end. And even that, we'll get to that. I've got some comments on the final fight as it's laid out in the screenplay. And it's just not typical. I don't know. It's one of those scripts and also one of those movies. It's kind of relaxing to watch because it's got just a pace to it. It's just got kind of a laid back pace. It matches Rocky himself. It matches the main character. It's so cool. So, maybe that's because the lead actor wrote it and insisted on being that lead actor. So we've got Rocky, written by Sylvester Stallone. The version that I have says that it's a master script and includes all revisions as of January 7th of 1976. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're coming up on 50 years. I feel really old right now. Coming up on 50 years of this movie existing in screenplay form. I have no idea what other revisions are after this. This is literally the only script I could find. So it's the one that I went with. Beyond this, we do have the telltale, scene numbers, which could mean something as far as, how far along it is. But even that, there's no guarantees. So, yeah. When you start getting into it, obviously, immediately I was daunted. I was like, oh no, what am I getting into? When it comes to all of this. So typically when you look at a screenplay, I say typically like I've read a billion screenplays, you don't want this. You don't want this much on a page. Now, again, I mentioned this last time too. You go and read an Edgar Wright script, you're going to see a lot of this. So to each his own. But this particular script starts with action, which is good. But again, it's really laid back action. It's like an underground fight. The description is really concise. It's not so tight that it's just like packing a punch, no pun intended. And that's what I mean by it. It kind of conveys a really laid back fight, and a rabid crowd and everything, but it just like everyone's moving slowly. I don't know. The best way I know how to put it is like, this is a drunk fight. Not literally the fighters are drunk, but it feels like that. So that's kind of the introduction to the screenplay and what we're in for as far as style and, just writing style. So, like I said, this is pretty laid back. So, I mean, even when we start getting into dialogue, it's stuff you could read it punchy, you're waltzing, give the sucker some action. Hey, yeah, you're moving like a bum. Want some advice? Yeah, just give me the water. Like, you could read it like that. But first of all, if you've heard Stallone, it's not going to come out that way. Everything just feels kind of drunk, right? Like it's that punch drunk feeling, which I think is really brilliant. And, you've got this here, a fan coming up to Rocky and all this dialogue of stuff that it's not punchy. You know what I mean? It's not meant to be punchy. It's meant to really convey a tone of pace. And so that's what I'm getting at, is that it's slow in a good way. It takes its time. But as you read on, you really come to feel how honestly tight this script is. Even with its established pace, you've got nothing jumps out as, you could get rid of that. And I'm not saying, again, this kind of comes with that high concept expectation. I'm not saying literally every line is just packed, or whatever. I'm saying this reads like a really wonderful novel. Not the medium of a novel, but like how you can just lose yourself in it. I think you just lose yourself in this script. I know there was one thing that I wanted to talk about was sort of the it factor. I mentioned this on LinkedIn when I was saying that I was doing this tonight and everything, that, what made people want this script? Because they did. They wanted this script. They offered Stallone money and all this stuff. There's a whole backstory behind this script. And he said no to anyone that wouldn't let him play the lead. Like he stayed in control. And I think the style and the, how you just kind of get lost in it and the character of it all is so important that, and he knew that, it could easily, the way I just read that beginning, someone could have interpreted it that way. I don't know how, because again, the writing of this is very specific. Maybe concise and punchy is the the wrong way to put it. It's very specific, and specific in just the right way. So scenes that, I don't know. I mean, someone might look at this and go, "Oh, you didn't really need that. Oh, you didn't really need that." I can't imagine that though, because there's character arcs that each little moment it lends themselves to. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself just a little bit. Because one of the first things I want to talk about is it's such a great character piece. It's hard to find. It's hard to find examples of character driven scripts that I like, that I like to read, because a lot of times I read something that's character driven and I just think I'd rather read this as a novel. Like, I'd rather know what was going on inside their head, or whatever that looks like. But this is such if you're looking to make a character driven movie, TV show, whatever, this is such a great example of character work. So, we talked about Home Alone a couple weeks ago, and that one really became, the theme of that one became much more about how to trim something down and find the absolute essence of characters, of scenes, all that kind of stuff. And really strip out what's unnecessary, because we were able to see what was in that script and what actually made it to the screen. So I'm gonna preface right now, as far as Rocky is concerned, I love Rocky, but I have not seen it in quite a while. I watched 3 scenes today just to prepare for this and to make sure I was remembering correctly about some things. But I have no idea how much of this stuff stayed. That's really not the point. The point is how well the characters come across, and that the fact the characters drive the story. So there's this whole debate over plot versus character and vice versa and whatever. And I've always said, I mean, you need both. You need both. And plot is what challenges the character. So character makes a decision. There is a result in the plot. Plot may push back even, right? There may be a consequence, a something. And then you have the character reacting to that, etc. So I've always seen it as both. This is such a great example of just an ensemble of people. Again, it's so ordinary, beautifully ordinary. An ensemble of characters that their decisions affect the other characters. And really there's one, I'm trying to see if this is correct. I mean, I think I can think of one plot point that is not character driven. It is literally a plot point that comes in to change the trajectory of the story. That's it. Everything else is all about characters making decisions, affecting other characters, how those characters react, that character reacts, and it's just beautiful. And like I said, it's written in such a way that really kind of sets you at ease as you read. You're not flipping through it like it's some Marvel movie. You're just enjoying it. You're soaking it in. You get a real feel for who the characters are, and you're spending time with these people. And I miss that. I miss those kind of movies. I'm sure they're still out there. Whenever I have a criticism like this, I've got people who go, "Oh, they're still there. They're still there. You don't watch enough movies," and da-da-da. And that's completely correct. I don't watch enough movies anymore. I have 3 children, and I work freelance, and a whole host of other excuses. But I try to read. I try to read screenplays. So one other screenplay that kind of came to mind, probably because I've read it somewhat recently, is Miller's Girl, that was written by Jade Bartlett, Blacklist. I don't even know what to call it. It's not like a winner. Anyway, it was, on the Blacklist, and she ended up making it and directing it. Had Jenna Ortega and Martin Freeman in it, and so yeah, it also kind of read very clean and slow, like in a good way. I wasn't racing through it. I wanted to kind of soak up every word. And I just feel like that screams amazing writing. So that was one of the things that occurred to me that felt like a decent comparison. I'm not saying it's equal with Rocky, just to be clear, but they're very similar in that they're character-oriented pieces, and you just kind of want to soak in every word. So yeah, we have, this whole setup, and you do have a lot of action described, and the thing that was interesting as I continue to read it, and you have all this action and everything, is I sort of caught all these references to blocking. So, I've mentioned before, you don't want to dictate too many things to either the director or the actors. You don't want to write in unfilmables, they say, as in, I can't tell you what's going on inside his head, or, all that kind of stuff, like you would in a novel. But, there are these moments where Stallone kind of goes into specifics about who's where in a room, and it doesn't just feel like a director's thing, because there are directors that write their own scripts, and they're absolutely directing in their scripts because they can, but it doesn't come across that way. It comes across as observation almost. It's, I don't know, I can't find an example of it in this very moment, but I realized after reading it for a while that this was very intentional actor blocking and actor thinking. So already he was thinking, where would I stand? What would I be doing? What would the other characters be doing? Why are they where they're at? And all this stuff. And he sort of picked his moments to give these story cues. So this isn't literal blocking exactly, but right here in this scene, it says, Rocky exits the trolley and walks down the block. He waves at a pair of high-heel hookers. They wave back. Rocky passes a sleeping wino curled in front of a dirty bookstore. Rocky drags the man into a protective passageway. So already in the first bit of setup here, you've got all these save the cat moments, for lack of a better term, and you start to understand this is a good guy, right? Like, he's just come off this fight. As he's called later in the movie, he seems kind of like bum. He goes to this really dodgy part of town, but he's also a good guy. And so then you've got further down the street, Rocky pauses in front of the Animal Town pet shop. He peers into the dark store and sees a sad, huge dog sitting in the window. He mumbles to the dog and continues to the corner. So it kicks off this theme. Let me see if I can find the next part. And see, again, we've got all of this action, all of this description. We've got a big description of Rocky's apartment, and some of that would just not fly in a different kind of script. But again, this has established a pace. It's established we're going to be here a while. So, for instance, Rocky's apartment. Rocky enters. The one-room apartment is drab, with a curling boxing poster of Rocky Marciano tacked on the wall. Nailed against the far wall is a mattress. The mattress is used as a punching bag. Stuffing spills out of the center. Rocky drops his coat on the floor. He puts on a pair of glasses. He crosses to a small turtle bowl. He lifts the creatures. Starts to boil a pan of water in his hot plate. Places an old 45 RPM record on a battered phonograph. The record is a tune, all in the game. As the crackling music begins, Rocky picks up his hairbrush. Using it like a microphone, he mimes to the record. He assumes the posture of a famous singer crooning to thousands of adoring fans. He then switches into a bullish fighting stance and throws several punches. The water boils. Rocky soaks his badly swollen hands. So it's just... there's no wasted moment there. There's not. We've got a clear picture of who he is as we walk into his apartment. Where does he live? What's happening in here? all that's happening is he has an idol in Rocky Marciano. He obviously cares about fighting, but he can't afford anything decent because he's got a mattress on the wall. He doesn't care. He drops his coat on the floor, puts on a pair of glasses. That was interesting. And crosses to a small turtle bowl, puts on a record. You know, he's just the actions that he's going through, the motions that he's going through, tell us all about him in just a few minutes, right? The personality that we're dealing with, what he enjoys, what he cherishes, because there's so few things in the apartment. But he's got these turtles. He takes care of things that matter. He's got a little bit of a crooner side to him, apparently, and an entertaining side, which is a pretty important facet to being a fighter, which comes up later. So all these themes are kind of introduced. I'm on page 4. You know what I mean? Like, beautiful, beautiful writing. So again, we've got these descriptions here that show us a little bit more of Philadelphia, different parts of Philadelphia, and this is the scene where we get a little bit of a different side of him, where we find out that he's, you know, a thug. He's a collector for local mafia, and you get all this back and forth and back and forth. So when we do get to more lengthy dialogue scenes, you know, it plays like a play. It plays in these beautiful scenes that you could imagine the actor just drinking in and playing with and playing against other actors and everything. And there was in the scenes that I looked up that I'll get into, the dialogue had changed, sometimes significantly, sometimes not. And you could just tell from the actors that were involved and the scenes that were involved that they were like workshopping it. It never strayed from the script, meaning it never strayed from the core meaning of the scenes that they were in, right? Like, everyone knew what those scenes were really about, and how they played with them and how they changed them absolutely played to that, and it made it better. It strengthened what it was playing to. And I think a lot of that starts on the page. You know, if you don't have a strong sense of what is this scene about, it's going to be so much harder to play with it. You know, if you're kind of guessing, if it's kind of shallow writing, basically, you can't play with it. So the fact, I think, that they could improv a little, that they could dig deeper into those characters and go, no, in this moment this would happen, no, right here, you know, I think that I get a sense that maybe there was that was happening, and all these scenes just got juicier, which is really cool. So like I said, I'm not going to get into a ton of structure and everything. It's late, my mind is fried. I'm not going to get into a ton of structure, but the only thing I'll comment is that it's again, when I say low key or kind of a slow burn or whatever, I mean that even plays into the catalyst and this and that and whatever. You know, it's all about Rocky's character and where he's at in his character arc. And then you find these supporting characters and where they are in their arc and how that affects everything. So, I mean, you have a fairly significant turn. Let me find it. I think it was right on page 20. Andy's bar. Yeah, on page somewhere 20, 21, somewhere in here, they announce the fight. They announced the Apollo fight that's supposed to be happening, and Rocky's watching it, and, you know, already up to this point has been like the first, 12 to 15 pages or so. The setup is setting up that Rocky's a good guy. and that he tries, and that, other people see him as a bum, and we're trying to evaluate, is he a bum? And so between the pages of, 12, 15, whatever, all the way up to now, he's kind of getting the shaft. Like, everything in his life is not going well. Like, he gets kicked out of the gym. The girl that he likes, who we get to know, the girl that he likes is giving him the cold shoulder, and he's just got trouble all the way around. And again, it's not life or death, but he makes it seem like life or death. He makes it seem like he's dying inside a little bit, This thing comes up on the TV, and it first introduces us to what's going to be the B story, right here, page 23 or so. And then, let me see, I'm trying to fast forward. And see here, this scene right here, I don't remember the movie. I don't remember if it made it into the movie. I believe it did. But this whole scene is about him trying to protect a 12-year-old girl who seems to be in with a couple of bad guys who seem to be encouraging her to walk the streets and do things that she's not supposed to be doing. And so it's interesting because he gets really frustrated with her. And it kind of introduces how angry and frustrated he can get. His frustration's definitely like peaking right now, basically. And, someone might have looked at this and said, you can cut that. Why do we have to have him trying to convince this girl, to get off the street? Why? What does that matter? It doesn't matter to him being a fighter. It doesn't matter to him getting the girl. It doesn't matter, all these things that have been set up. But I think, they have these character moments to just reinforce, this is where Rocky's at in his character arc, You've got him in a place where he's still trying to help people. So apparently he doesn't give up easily, which is a really great quality to kind of reinforce. And at the same time, they don't want to listen and they don't want to improve. And that's the constant theme and tension throughout this entire thing, is there are people who want a shot. They want to improve. And either the world's against them, or there's circumstances or people or whatever. And there's people who genuinely don't care. They don't care to improve. So, it's a character driven story about, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with life? And every character reinforces that. It's pretty incredible. So, I guess to continue with I kind of wandered off of this, but the blocking, the actors being kind of dictated about blocking. There is, let me go back and find it. There is a scene, I'll need that one in a second too. The first scene where he is talking to Adrian, Rocky and the owner. Yeah. So there's this whole scene in the pet shop. And before he gets into the pet shop, kind of like what we just saw, where he's looking through the window, you've got later that morning, Rocky passes Animal Town Pet Shop in South Philly. The shop's not very prosperous looking. In the window hangs a sign reading today's special, mixed kittens, $1.50. Rocky stops at the shop every morning. He stares at a litter of Lhasa Apso puppies. He taps the window and whistles. He sees a girl behind the counter and presses his face against the window and does his impression of the Hunchback of Notre Dame. The girl nervously looks away. The girl behind the counter is Adrienne Klein. She's not very attractive, but pleasant looking, 30 years old, brown hair pulled back, light skin. She wears glasses. Rocky really stops by to flirt with Adrienne, but she's so painfully shy, nothing ever gets started. Rocky enters. So, there's so many of these kinds of examples where he's literally on the outside looking in. And I think sometimes, I know I would think as a writer, it'd be tempting to think, oh, well, that's a decision for the director. Or just, you're lost in the story of it. for lack of a better way of putting it. But in screenwriting, this is the story. Him standing outside looking in is the story. That's who he is. That's his character. That's the problem, right? That's the theme. And I don't know, just getting a feel for this pet shop and everything. The kittens, $1.50 and all. I mean, you know, it's such well chosen details to help you understand what kind of place this is, but also the place it has in Rocky's life. Nothing in Rocky's life is top notch, and that includes even this pet shop he stops by. So, but he's on the outside looking in. He was on the outside looking in, you know, into the dark window when he was looking at the dog before. It just kind of blows my mind. Sorry. There's another scene. I wonder if I can find it. I'm going to have to figure out how to find this stuff easier. Go ahead and bookmark it ahead of time. There is another scene that I really want to find it because I really want to read it. Maybe it's part of... Come on. That's him trying to save Marie. Okay. Let's see here. This is the beginning of the scene. So Rocky has gotten invited to Thanksgiving because he's asking for Paulie's help. Paulie is Adrian's brother. And he's asking for help with Adrian because Adrian doesn't seem to really want to hang out with him. And he's not sure why. So he gets invited to Thanksgiving. He gets there. Adrian didn't know that he was coming. And she feels really uncomfortable. So Adrian, it says, enters the bedroom and slams the door. Paulie follows. An argument ensues and Rocky overhears. So again, outside looking in to... He can't see, but he's hearing, right? There's these barriers that are just part of the blocking. And I have to admit the reason I noticed this, there's a particular scene later on where Mickey shows up at Rocky's apartment. Mickey is the trainer. I haven't gotten there yet. Mickey's the trainer. And just to make the story short, as a part of that scene, as it's shot in the movie, and this is one of the places I'll actually mention the movie, Mick ends up talking to Rocky through a bathroom door. And I had a screenwriting teacher in college that used that scene as an example of how to make a dialogue scene richer. So instead of just them talking, or, you know, you write all this dialogue, but you don't necessarily mention blocking, let's say. It could be read that they're just talking to each other in the room. Well, if you write it like Mickey's talking through a bathroom door, you're really picking up on a theme. You're picking up on the barriers in the story and everything else. And as I just remember him mentioning that, and just how to enrich a dialogue scene, choosing your location very carefully, choosing your circumstances very carefully, all that. And I guess just that memory, it kind of caught me as far as paying attention to just how many times there's a window, there's a door, there's something. So Rocky in this instance is, you know, listening to this fight about him through the bedroom door, and they fight for a while. Paulie turns, leaves the bedroom. He enters the kitchen. He's going to he ends up throwing the Thanksgiving turkey out the window which I don't remember, but I think actually, again, is in the movie. I just haven't watched the movie in forever. And Adrian ends up going back to the bedroom and locking the door right here. And Rocky walks over to Adrian's bedroom door, begins to speak to the enclosed girl. He's talking to her through the door again. And he's trying to convince her to go out with him. We can't see what's happening on the other side of the door. And that's so brilliant. And again, that's what my screenwriting teacher was pointing out about the scene later on, that you can't see the reaction. You don't know what's happening. You're very connected to the character that you can see in that moment, because you don't have any reactions to fall back on, right? So Rocky talks to her through the door and rambles, which is so part of Rocky's character, is the rambling that happens, which, Stallone does beautifully with his mumble. And eventually Adrian opens the door and she already has her winter coat on. So after all of this that we've seen him kind of be uncomfortable and try to ask her out, and, oh, but she's not answering. What do I do? He turns to Polly. What do I do? All this stuff. And he just keeps talking, that by the time Adrian opens the door, she's been getting ready the whole time. Like she's ready to go, and she's ready to hang out with him. So, that's a beautiful scene. The other scene, let me see if I can find the Mickey scene. It's much later. Yeah, it's this scene. So Mickey comes and visits Rocky. At this point, Rocky has the fight with Apollo lined up. They came to him and asked him to fight Apollo. And I'm trying to find the beginning of the scene. There it is. And suddenly people are coming out of the woodwork wanting stuff from Rocky. Suddenly believing in him or something. And it's very, again, there's that frustration that he feels. And that tension that's very ordinary and common and distilled in this script. And Mickey comes in and tries to talk to him, and this is all in his little tiny apartment, and just absolute kind of dump. And Rocky's already kind of uncomfortable here. Rocky's slightly uncomfortable, almost embarrassed at having outsiders see how he lives. You get little bits and pieces of that, but not too much. That's kind of one of those unfilmables, but it dances close enough that it's not so terrible. But then they talk for a good long time, and let's see here. You got a lot of Mickey basically trying to talk him into it, and trying to, a lot of bravado, trying to prove who he is, and trying to say, I deserve respect. And Rocky doesn't always know what to do, but oh, look at this long spiel, and I really honestly don't know what made it in or not. I don't remember the scene being this long in the movie, but it could have been. Let's see. The part of the scene that I watched kind of started right here, where Mickey's saying, I made a mistake, and I'm asking man to man, I want to be your manager. And Rocky says, the fight said, I don't need you. And you can't buy what I know. I've seen it all. I got a place. Da-da-da. He's like, I got pain and experience too. And he said, whatever I got, I always got on the slide. This shot's no different. I didn't earn nothing. I got it on the slide. I needed your help about 10 years ago when I was starting, but you never helped me none. Mickey drops the ashtray, kneels to pick it up. He remains on one knee. And so they keep talking, and they keep talking. And then it says Rocky is choked and goes into the bathroom and closes the door. Mickey struggles to his feet, and like a beaten man leaves. Several moments later, Rocky steps out, lowers himself into bed. Springing up a second later, he runs outside. So, again, the way this is played, it's written into the script, but the way it's played is even better. And I think this is one of those moments where everyone involved probably realized, this is a moment. This is another place that we can do this, where Rocky goes into the bathroom, the door shut. Mickey sits there for a second before he gets to this speech. Rocky, I'm 76 years old. Maybe you can be the winner. I never was. Your shot is my last shot. And in the movie, the way it plays, he goes up and just almost tenderly kind of talks to the door. And he says, Rocky, I'm 76 years old. And he looks like he wants to say something more. And he looks like he wants to say something more. And finally, he just kind of, gives up, droops, walks away. He opens the door to leave and ends up shutting the door. And it's this great moment that, again, that part's not here, but just the door being, Rocky being in the bathroom. Oh, that's something else. He's trying to talk and he's trying to say, I'm 76 years old. He says a couple of things and Rocky literally flushes the toilet from inside, like as Mickey is talking. And, so that's the only indicator we get maybe of what the person on the other side of the door is thinking. Right. And, Mickey goes to leave. He opens the door, he shuts it again, and it plays well. I mean, it plays naturally. And, Rocky comes out of the bathroom because he thinks Mickey's gone, but Mickey's still standing there. And he kind of rolls his eyes and he runs back into the bathroom and shuts the door again. And then Mickey really does leave. And I think a lot of this scene, there's a lot of ranting that Rocky does. And honestly, I wonder, just was it improv? Because actually, I'm not seeing it. I wondered if it was earlier in the script. I'm not even seeing that. So I think he kind of improv'd it. Let me see. Yeah, I think he improv'd it. So, or something. They came up with it where Rocky goes on this entire rant while Mickey's down at the bottom of the stairs. So once again, they cannot see each other. These characters cannot see each other's reaction, but we can. We see Mickey standing there listening to Rocky, and Rocky is just ranting at the air, not really knowing if Mick is still there, but we do. And we see that interplay. So the barriers are starting to come down, even visually. And I'm a super geek about visual stuff. Just talking story sometimes is like, but I really want to talk about what they put on the screen. This is one of those times where I get to do that and say, it wasn't blocked completely like that in the script, but it's like what I was saying earlier. There's the key things there, right? There's the essence of this scene, which is the tension between Rocky and Mickey, and the fact that by the end of the scene, the barrier that is between them, the tension, the angst, the frustration, finally falls. But I think either Stallone or somebody knew that the way the script was laid out, the scene was laid out, wasn't enough. Rocky needed this rant. He needed to yell at Mickey for a while because he wouldn't really otherwise have a chance to. I mean, something about the characters in this, brief aside here, they're incredibly colorful in the script. They're almost, I'm reluctant to say muted in the movie, but like, I think Mickey's even meaner in the script, and he kind of comes across mean anyway, right? Like a mean old SOB in the movie. But he says some really nasty, horrible things to Rocky in the script that I don't think made it into the movie. And I feel like Paulie's kind of the same way. Like he's an amped version of himself in the script. and Apollo might apply to Apollo too, actually. So it's interesting to give Rocky this moment in the movie where he finally gets to yell at Mickey. He's like, "You treated me like crap. Now I'm going to treat you like crap." You know, but it's also him just being frustrated with his own life because of the content of the rant. And once he gets that out of his system, you know, he runs after Mickey, which is in the script, you know. Several moments later, Rocky steps out, lowers himself, or no, hold on, wait. There we go. Rocky races up the block toward the shadowy, hunched form of Mickey. Way in the distance, we see Rocky stop the old man beneath a street lamp. He places an arm around his shoulder. Guys, this is such a great script, and I can't rave about it enough. That, like, this scene is completely, it is blocking. You know exactly what shot you're gonna need to shoot, right? It's totally dictated, but it's because of the story. It's because we don't need a close-up of their reconciliation. Now we're the outsiders. We need to step back from that intimate moment. We can see what happened. We know what happened. We don't need to see their faces. We see it all in body language. We see it by them coming together, literally, like their silhouettes, you know, coming together and everything else. I mean, in the movie, because again, this is one of the scenes that I actually watched. It is an extreme wide. They're really tiny on the screen, and it's so appropriate that they have that moment together, and we're not right there, and it's in the script, right? So, you know, again, I keep going back to writing a character and how they come across, which, by the way, super quick, other character things, everybody has their own voice. The accents and how he writes is incredible. It's incredibly consistent, and you know exactly who everyone is. Rocky's rambling is in the script. His mumbling is in the script. Adrian being shy, little short sentences and everything else in the script. Paulie and his, you know, bombastic ways in the script. So it's all there already. So if they don't stick to every single word, you get such a sense of their characters. You know exactly what they would say and how they would say it. What was I saying before that? His sense of writing a character bled into thinking, what is that character doing? Where are they? How are these characters gonna interact? And then in writing even writing this, it really does tell you that he understood what we needed to see and where we were in that moment, who we were with. He understood how to convey characters in that way. So it's just, it's this entire thing is the best of an actor's mind, thinking through character and how to convey that and how to tell the story in a way that an actor would tell the story. Body language, blocking, being aware of who's around them, how close they are. All of the kind of physical things are in this script. I'm just trying to think. I know there was other things I wanted to talk about, the scenes and everything. I kind of already have. I think I may just skip to the end and go to the fight scene. Let's see here. Yeah. So we're on page 96 and getting ready for the fight. And this is, again, I feel like it's an actor really getting into the head of the character, because what we're dictated to here, I'll just read it. Apollo Creed sits in his dressing room. It's dead silent, except for some noise that filters under the door from the arena. It's a close-up of Apollo's hand being taped. The rasping sound of the adhesive tape is very pronounced. Rocky's dressing room. The atmosphere is identical to Apollo's dressing room. Adrian watches in silence as Mike wraps Rocky's hand. Again, the most pronounced sound is the rasping of the adhesive tape. Apollo's dressing room. Apollo's other hand is being wrapped. Dead silent except for the tape, and Apollo's breathing. Rocky's dressing room. Rocky's other hand is being wrapped in a close-up. The only sound is the tape and Rocky's mounting breathing pattern. Apollo's dressing room. Close-up of drops being placed in his nose to help increase his intake of oxygen. The tremendously magnified sound of Apollo taking in air. Rocky's dressing room. Close-up of the drops being placed in Rocky's nose. Apollo's dressing room. A heavy coating of Vaseline is applied to the champion's eyes. In extreme close-up, the eyes shine brightly with the grease. Rocky's dressing room. Grease is smeared around Rocky's eyes. In the extreme close-up, several deep scars are seen. So, going back to character, because again, it's just dripping with it. You're constantly, now he's an editor, right? Now you're going back and forth and back and forth. But what are you comparing? You're comparing characters, right? You're not just conveying an action, a plot point, whatever. You're actually comparing the two. And what they're saying is, you got Apollo, who the whole script, you've gotten to know him as a slick businessman. You've gotten to know him as, a guy, a really great fighter. There's a lot of really great moments for Apollo throughout this screenplay. But, he and Rocky are not on the same level. And I'm not talking as a fighter. I'm just talking like opportunity. This whole script is about opportunity. And Apollo has taken advantage of any and every opportunity he has. And he's risen in the ranks to a certain point, right? But you get these back and forths. And everything is the same, right? They're doing the same thing. They're both getting their hands taped. And just magnifying those noises is such a brilliant touch. Because, again, that's an actor in that character's body going, what am I hearing? And it's just such selective hearing, right? You hear the tape. I become aware of my breathing. He just layers it until you get to that final part. And the difference is, Rocky's got a lot of scars. He's had a lot of fights. He's not a great fighter. And that is pointed out. And those comparisons are seen, right? So we continue cutting back and forth between Apollo and Rocky and comparing them. Apollo's trainer is kind of massaging his upper back and neck. Mike's arms are wrapped around Rocky's waist and lifting his diaphragm up. It's them getting, now it's different, right? These are different ways of handling their warm up. And eventually we're moving out into the fight hall. And having these little moments. And again, I don't know how many of these little moments stayed. I think a lot of these lines were probably cut for the silence. I think every now and again there's jokes that are included in Rocky, if I remember correctly. There's jokes that are included in Rocky that have everything to do with a joke falling flat. Because it's like you want a joke, but it's such a serious moment that it kind of chokes the joke a little bit. So they knew how to play what was there. It wasn't, oh, we need to laugh right now. No one would be laughing right now. You'd be making a nervous joke, and that's what that is. So, we start the fight. So we see how differently they enter the ring. There's this whole block right here is Apollo. it's how he comes into the building. It's oh, I'm dressed to the nines like George Washington and all this other stuff. Which by the way, super minor thing. There's some playfulness with sort of racial tensions throughout the script. Nothing I want to say nothing offensive. To me, it's not terribly offensive at all. I think it's just observations. It was written in the 70s, and I think these were things that people are starting to pay attention to and see the irony in a little bit. There's a lot of racial slurs in the script that, again, I don't know if they actually made it into the movie or not. I'm sure some of them did. But there's a lot of comments about a white man fighting a black man and this and that, whatever. And honestly, I thought it was really astute. I didn't think it was there's no underlying agenda or anything like that. It was just very astute observations of an ordinary situation. So very brief aside there. But as we get going in the fight, well, it takes a while to lead into the fight. Again, it's just that slow burn, right? There's so many times we're just now with information and just wanting to get to things these days. No, we're soaking it all in, every single bit of it, every bell ring, every announcement, every this, every that. It's all just soaking it in. Let's see here. They bring in a bunch of really great boxers to say hi, and obviously this is a big event, so it's meant to be a big deal. We're making it a bigger deal. The announcers announce everybody. And let's see here. Yeah, so this is the beginning of the fight. The referee motions to both fighters. They step to the center of the ring. As the referee explains the rules, Apollo and Rocky stare hard into each other's eyes. The referee's voice fades, and the fighters' expressions fill the screen. Something soulful and frightening is being communicated. Again, you're stepping into the character. I used to be a kickboxer and had a fight or two, more exhibitions than fights. But stepping in, you think you're going to be aware of a lot of things. You're not. You are so unaware of those things. You're unaware of the people. You just completely block everything out except for what is literally right in front of you. And I love that he conveyed that in writing in the script. And a director didn't have to think of that. It is very much putting yourself in the character's shoes. And I think it can be really hard if you're not an actor to do that and to remember to do that, more to the point. So we get going and often experience, let's see here, where we get the commentators, casting basically what's happening. We get what they just described. We kind of get down here. So this is kind of a style thing that I thought was interesting. He does a good job. I've always struggled with this myself. When you have like voiceover commentating or something like this, how do you convey that? How do you order that? What's a natural way for the reader to read it? But you put in a hierarchy of like, oh, but visual first, but then you do the visual and then you do the commentary and it feels weird. And anyway, he does a good job finding a way to kind of thread that needle and mention things along the way if he needs to. The bell rings, Creed dances forward and boxes Rocky as though he considers the man an amateur. So this entire fight, starting obviously right here, the last 15 minutes, the last 15 pages, is the movie condensed. So the entire time, structurally, you've gotten Rocky's arc of being told he's a bum, fighting amateur fights, then really being down and out and away, and then suddenly getting this fight, right? And at the same time, he's trying to woo Adrian and be a man and be a good man, but it's hard and he's wrestling with it, whatever. And then these people come out of the woodwork when he gets this fight and they want to be his friend and they want to help him, and This fight follows that pattern in those observations. So when the fight starts, you've got Creed literally treating him like that, like the way he was treated at the beginning of the movie. And when you think about finales, it really is, when you think about the hero's journey, the hero goes through this journey to find out who they really are. So at the beginning, Rocky has a hard time struggling, going, am I a bum? Maybe I am a bum. And being really frustrated with that idea because he doesn't want to give up. And this is the test. This is the final test of, is he or isn't he? Literally and figuratively. He's literally in a fight trying to prove himself. But thematically, it's happening too. Because you've got Apollo Creed, him finally facing Apollo Creed, and Creed treating him like he was treated at the beginning of the movie. And it's that challenge of, okay, but how are you going to take it? You know, are you going to get frustrated? Because there were moments early on that he gets really frustrated. Are you going to get frustrated? Are you going to lose your cool? Are you going to give up? And this fight echoes everything that's happened in the movie so far. And it is the final test of Rocky's character. So, Rocky, you know, after Rocky is actually knocked down. Let's see here. Let me just read the commentator, because I like that. The champ stings the slower challenger with jabs at will. Balboa blocks 80% of blows with his face. Creed doesn't look the best he's ever been, but, you know, is moving smoothly. Creed snaps out a triple combination that backs Balboa into a corner. Oh, a solid hook from Creed. A master of fistmen. The champion is smiling and toying with the man, trying to give the fans their money's worth and make a show of it. With the badly outclassed challenger, another left to the right combination. I feel sorry for, Creed is down. So it's like, bam, right interrupted. Rocky suddenly explodes with an upswing hook to the jaw. Creed is dropped. The arena explodes. Creed's eyes show disbelief, and so do Rocky's. Rocky backs into his corner. Mickey and Mike yell at him. You can do it. You got the power. You can do it. Creed is up. His playful attitude is gone. He's now all business. His lightning jab stings Rocky's face repeatedly. So you see a turn. So the thing that I wanted to point out, along with it echoing, you know, Rocky's character arc and everything that he's learned, is, again, this is supposed to be an action scene, right? This is a great example of how to write action as story, because you have these very distinct turning points. This could be the slugfest. You could kind of sleepwalk your way through this if you wanted to. You know, you could feel your way through it and do it pretty well, probably. But these are very intentional beats where Apollo's attitude changes. That means the fight changes. That means how Rocky's going to react has to change. So you keep going. He's now all business. His lightning jab stings Rocky's face repeatedly. Rocky charges and a terrific right crashes against Apollo's chin, followed by an uppercut to the liver that causes Creed to cringe. Apollo counters with jabs and Rocky whips brutal combinations to the body. The bell rings. So you have these, you know, nice back and forths with the trainers and the corners and everything else. The bell for the second round begins. So, each round kind of has its own flavor as they, you know, one is winning against the other, and why, you know, at some point Apollo kind of gets the upper hand. Let's see here. The round ends with Apollo assaulting Rocky with blinding combinations and delivering a stupendous right cross that flings Rocky into the ropes and shatters his nose. The round ends. That's a major plot point because at the very beginning, he brags, well, not at the very beginning, throughout the movie, he brags that his nose has never been broken. He's fought like 40 something fights. And Mickey even makes a joke about it. Don't fight. Don't stop fighting. Keep that nose perfect, blah, blah, blah. And so that's another turning point. So you just kind of constantly see this like back and forth and back and forth. And so now we're back against Rocky, right? His nose is shattered. Apollo stands in his corner and jokes with fans, but he's beginning to show the strain from the body punches. So you see him trying to make light, trying to turn those tables. But it's showing, right? Rocky sits as Mickey and Benny try to reduce the swelling around his eyes. The nose is shattered. The commentators are caught up in the action. They speak rapidly with microphones. Round 3, ready to start. So round 3 is when it was predicted. Apollo said that he would knock Rocky out. Apollo comes out dancing. He skips and sidesteps Rocky's sledgehammer hooks. An expert ring general, Apollo uses the ring fully. Rocky keeps tearing in, which again, that's an allusion to everything that's been set up about how Rocky fights. He's got horrible footwork and everything else. So Apollo can like outdance him basically. Rocky keeps tearing in, and Creed meets the bombing attack that caused thick swelling. Near the end of the round, Rocky fires a penetrating punch to the heart. So then we've got the commentating that matches all of that. Like I said, how everything is layered in is very comfortable. It reads very, very comfortable. The wallop knocks Apollo off balance. The camera goes to a steep angle shot from the floor. So this is the first literal camera, like designation that's been in this whole thing. It's a steep angle shot from the floor, vertically up Apollo's body. The scene goes into slow motion. Rocky releases a terrifying uppercut that opens a gash under Creed's eye. Creed's face contorts with excruciation. The bell sounds. Apollo's corner works frantically to close the wound. The ring doctor inspects the cut. So, after that nose break, now we're leaning on Apollo a little bit again, right? By the end of the round, by the end of round 3, Creed's the one that's in major trouble. So this is a lot of very intentional, back and forth being played out in this, that the last 15 pages, like I said, is just, it's poetry. It's back and forth, pulling in all of those little details that have been laid throughout the entire story, all those little threads. They're pulling at every thread with every round, and what we know about these people and what they've said and what everything means. It's packed with meaning because it's been laid in throughout the script, and he didn't just write a final fight, like I said, you could phone this in. It could be an interesting fight. You might have even the same outcome. This is so intentional. I would love to write action this intentional. It's really awesome. Let's see here. Rocky's face is in bad shape. Let's see here. So then here, after those first three rounds, so there's 15 rounds. After the first 3 rounds, we get kind of a montage, a series of shots. Which again, by the way, there's a few montages throughout the script, and he's so good at not just saying montage and listing shots. Like, I really admired this way of doing it. I don't know if it's because it's an older way, if it's his way, or what it is, but it's really enjoyable. A series of shots in the next 10 rounds. Apollo cuts and slashes Rocky to ribbons, but pays dearly. Both his eyes and lips are cut. Welts across his midsection attest to Rocky's body battering. So it really sets up their strengths, right? So Apollo is still very good at what he does, but Rocky has really found maybe not a weakness in Apollo, but has definitely found his strength, which is those body shots and everything. And that's going to become a thing. So Adrian's unable to remain alone. She comes out, blah, blah, blah. And we have this collection of supporting characters, right? We've got Mr. Gazzo, who is the mafia that Rocky's a thug for. He's in attendance with his bodyguard. You've got Paulie. You've got Adrian. You've got the people that have been set up and really filled out as characters. I mean, even the bodyguard of the mafia guy has character, has kind of an arc in how he feels about Rocky, what it says about him, all this. You could just go in and do a character study on every character in this thing because it's so well-rounded. All right, so we're in round 14. Let me see this. Men are fighting with appalling tenacity. Rocky rips and tears into the body. Apollo counters with a ceaseless stream of rapier-like lefts. The challenger is seriously outclassed. Rocky wades in, and Creed employs incredible footwork. So again, they're contrasting the two. Rocky doesn't have great footwork. He wades in. Creed employs incredible footwork. He sets himself and cuts loose with a thunderbolt right cross to Rocky's already broken nose. Just, yeah, blood sprays from the wound and red droplets drip from his chin. Rocky takes a merciless beating and is staggered by a torrent of combinations. Rocky's eyes are closed, but Creed cannot drop him. The bell rings. Okay, so that was round 14. So, again, Rocky's on the ropes, perhaps literally, and his eyes are shut. They end up having to cut his eye open so that he can see again. Like, cut the welt that has swollen his eye shut and bleed it, basically. Nobody thinks he should keep going, but he wants to keep going. He's like, I got this. So this is him proving out that character that we've seen refine throughout the entire movie. So then we get to the last round. Well, this says round 14. I don't know if I miscounted or if there are some typos in this. Let's see. Rocky bores in close, but Apollo still has spring in his legs. He seems determined to end it this round. Apollo catches Rocky flush on the jaw. Rocky, staggered like a wolf, Apollo cuts loose with pure savagery. Rocky's driven against the ropes and receives a devastating beating from the champion. Rocky is dropped. Rocky sits stunned in the middle of the ring. Everything is a distortion. He looks for familiar faces as though to ask for help. Rocky gets to his feet, tenses with renewed energy. He's like a wounded wild animal. The tide suddenly turns. Rocky drops low and catches Apollo with a pair of terrific body punches that seems to drive Apollo's diaphragm up to his throat. A crack is heard. A glaze of pain covers Apollo's eyes. It's only a supreme effort that keeps the champion upright. Apollo's badly hurt. He's bent over. Rocky moves towards Apollo. We'll skip. The bell rings again. So now Apollo has to decide, what kind of man is he? Is he going to keep going? Because he's, as his trainer says, you're bleeding on the inside. I got to get the doctor. And he goes, no. One more round. So both of them are kind of proving who they are. And Rocky no longer resembles himself. His face is completely beaten to jelly, but his mood is buoyant. Rocky's approaching the supreme moment of his life. He cannot be bothered with pain or doctors. So he's fought through that frustration. There was that moment of getting knocked down. And again, early in the script, there's these moments where he's just knocked down in a proverbial sense. And he gets frustrated and you feel that tension. And this is him, after being through that, after going through the hero's journey, pushing through and finding, joy, I guess, in the pain, understanding that you can keep going, that he can keep going. And, Mickey's trying to stop it. We got to stop it, kid. You gave it your best shot. Nobody's going to say you didn't give it your all. And Rocky's like, I'll kill you all. Don't stop. Don't stop this. And, so we have the final round. And I remember watching this movie for the first time, and I'm going to ruin it in case, there's anyone here who hasn't seen Rocky. Rocky doesn't win. So you get this final round where both of them are hurting, blood spraying. The fighters stand toe to toe and they just, they're decking each other. The bell finally rings. The arena explodes, and it's amazing. And then they have to go to the judges' cards, which just dumbfounds everyone. Apollo's nervous. No one pictured Apollo being nervous. Of course, everyone thought Apollo was going to beat him in round 3, and then you have the judges' cards, and they announce that Apollo won. But there's this tense moment, and again, this lends itself to the pacing. The last 15 pages are the story in and of themselves, right? Beginning to end, it is his own little story that absolutely traces what's been happening to all of the characters. And even Apollo, this is kind of his final character moment, his character arc moment. It says Judge Walker scores it 8-7 Creed. Judge Roseman scores it 8-7 Balboa. Apollo is rigid. Fear radiates from his eyes. To lose the crown on this night after the fight he fought would kill him. A silence has blanketed the arena. Judge Connor scores at 9-6 Creed, winner and still heavyweight champion of the world, Apollo Creed. And we don't get Apollo's reaction. We get Rocky's. Rocky sorely smiles and looks and waves at the cheering fans that circle the ring and reach out towards him. Mickey grabs Rocky's hand and raises it. The crowd roars. I don't care what they say, you're a winner. So it's all about Mickey and Rocky. We finally get back across. Rocky stares across the ring at Apollo Creed, who stands victorious, but his face and body are badly distorted. The two men lock stares that reflect admiration. So it's an echo of what happened at the beginning of the fight, where they were staring each other down, and there was this, fierceness to them, and, this unspoken thing between them and whatever. Now we have a same unspoken thing, but it's admiration. They've been through it, beginning to end. Just beautiful reflection of structure, beautiful reflection of the movie themes, character arcs, development. Apollo learns a great deal of humility in this movie and takes that forward into other movies, sort of. It fails at some point. His character fails. He forgets this moment, if you will. But anyway, I've talked for almost an hour and a half about the script. It's a beautiful story, and you have this final moment with Adrian. Rocky's done what he meant to do. He wanted to last all 15 rounds. He wanted the girl, and he got it all because he would not give up. So, great, beautiful example of a character piece, and how you can write that in a way that dictates a kind of pace and a flow. Carefully chosen details that don't just speak to the individual elements, don't just speak to a location, don't just speak to a character. It speaks to everything. It's very aware of the scene, very aware of the room, if you will. And in this case, aware of the camera because it's a film and not a play. Very aware. This is a very aware script, I guess. I would put it. And simple. Like, again, I didn't go over the structure, honestly, because it's simple. But because it's so simple, it's so very intentional about every detail, every moment, and how every character plays off of each other, and what that does in this little moment in time. So highly recommend reading it, especially if you're working on a character piece. It gives such great example of writing style, how to let a script breathe. You can literally, as you're reading it, you can just feel yourself breathing, which doesn't always happen. Sometimes you're flipping really fast because scripts are really quick reads. But to have a script that you just drink in every word is, I think, rare and beautiful, and a really wonderful example of how writing should look these days. And I think how people think they're writing, but they're not. I think a lot of writers try. They think they're writing very intentionally, but they're putting way too much in. And because they're doing that, they're losing the nuance and not really finishing strong. So the fact that I just spent half an hour on the final fight, obviously finishes strong, and finishes very intentionally, and wraps everything. It is a true finale. It is a true finale. And yeah, I could rave about it for another how many ever hours, but I'm not going to. I'm going to end this now. I have no idea what I'll talk about next week, but I do hope to do this weekly. Missed last week, but yeah, I do hope to do this weekly. And we'll just see what I feel like. We'll see what I feel like next week. What comes to mind and what jumps out at me. So, join me again next week. And, yeah, thanks for stopping in and helping me right some wrongs.